Hey friends, today I'm outside on my back porch and I'm out here because this week is Earth Week. And in fact, on Thursday, April 22nd, it's officially Earth Day. So I thought instead of drawing a picture of the Earth or thinking about the Earth in that way, why don't we go out into nature and draw nature, right? Because there's nothing more about the earth than nature, right? We live in such an amazing place. We have nature all around us. So today, all you're gonna need is a pencil or a pen, doesn't matter which. You don't even need an eraser. You need a white piece of paper and something to lean on so that it's easier to draw. I'm gonna take a little tour with you around my backyard, show you some thoughts I had around some of the things in my backyard. And then I'm going to choose a few items. I'll bring them back up to my table to draw. You don't have to bring them to a table. You don't have to cut them or anything like that. You could just pull up a little, sit on the ground or pull up a rock or pull up a little chair right next to something, and you could go ahead and draw it as is in your backyard or at the park or wherever you are. In fact, the park, you probably shouldn't pick things. People might get mad at you for that. We're going to talk about two main techniques. One is contour line. All contour line means is you're looking at something and you're drawing. So like if I were to hold my paper, there's a chair in front of me there. If I'm just going to look at the chair and notice I'm not looking down at my paper at all. I'm just drawing what I see without looking. Every once in a while I might glance down. And it's not perfect. I'm not gonna lie, it's not, contour line is never totally perfect, but it's a really fun thing to do. So we'll learn that. And the second thing we're gonna learn is a new way to shade. Instead of shading, just by like literally shading, you can do something called hatching, which means you can draw lines one way, and that means it's like a little bit shaded, and then you could make it look more shaded by adding more lines, and you can just keep adding these lines. You might have seen this technique used like in comic books. You can start to notice in comic books, a lot of times they'll do hatching for shading because they're just using a pen or they're just using a pencil. So it's impossible to create different colors other than, going back over and over and over it. It's just kind of an easier way to show shading. And the more you want it shaded, the more different directions you can put your pen or your pencil in going. See how that works. Okay, so those are the two main things, contour line and hatching. And then you're just gonna have fun finding objects and drawing them and kind of getting in touch with nature. I hope you enjoy it. So we got lots of leaves. You could do interesting leaves like this if you wanted. Got some blueberries, like a big tree. That would be so hard to do. You're gonna want to go smaller, like there's a little rock. That could be a cool thing to draw. That little flower could be fun. Now it's not gonna be pink. You're gonna keep it just black and white because you're gonna use just pencil or pen, but you could still do a flower if you wanted to. I'm just walking around my whole yard. You could go to Pioneer Park, you could go to Miwok, go to some other park near your house. Just go on a little nature walk with your family. It's kind of a fun thing to do sometimes, just to get out of your house, to check out, and those are kind of cool little leaves. Check out what's out and about. There's a rose. I could do a rose. This is my veggie garden. It's not planted yet, but I'm getting it ready. I'll have to show you later on once I get it all organized. I'm thinking this fern could be fun. These leaves, it's kind of cool. Like there's lots of lines in here, and I kind of like that. The more lines you have on the leaves or the rock or the flower, whatever you have, I think the more fun for this activity. Like you've got all these lines on that leaf that would be kind of fun to draw. So you're gonna choose some things. I'm gonna grab a few and bring them back to my patio table to make it easier to make the video. But you could just I could just like grab a little bench and I could just sit next to my fern and draw the fern. That would be kind of a fun thing to do. So you decide the easiest way to do it, and I'll show you what I come up with in just a minute. Okay, so after going around my yard, I found some objects to draw. I found this little weedy plant that I have all over my yard. I found a rock. I found some mint, and I found a fern leaf. So I'm going to draw each one separately. I'm going to start with what's called contour line, which is mainly just looking at the object and not really looking down at your paper at all, and just drawing what you think you see. And it looks a little funky sometimes, but that's okay. And then I'm going to show you a little shading technique. Remember, all you're using is a piece of paper, something to lean on probably, especially if you're not at a table or in a chair, and either a pen or a pencil. You could do either. I'm going to do both just to see the difference, but that's all you need. You don't have to pick the stuff, especially if you're at the park. You probably shouldn't. You could just sit right at the object and draw it. I tried to choose things that I thought had like some interesting lines to draw, especially this fern. The lines looked really interesting to me. So I wanted to do that. And so like things like a flower, remember, you're not really looking for color. Because you're not going to be using color. So it's, even if it's a beautiful flower, it's just going to be pencil or pen. So it might not be the time to choose something like that. You might want to choose something that has more lines to it that you can actually draw. All right, I'm going to set up, so I'm going to start to draw, and you can see what you think. Okay, so I'm going to start with the mint. And it's partly in the sun, it's mostly in the sun, so I won't see too many shadows. And what I'm going to do, it's going to look kind of funny, I think. I'm going to put it in the same position that I want to draw, I think, right now. And you're going to be like, what is she doing? But what you do is you just draw what you see, and you try not to let yourself look down at your paper. And I guarantee you'll get off and it won't look exactly like the mint, but that's okay. You're just kind of drawing what you see, and that's all you're doing. And that's they call that contour line drawing. And in theory, I shouldn't even be picking my pencil up. I should just be looking and drawing. And sometimes when you do these, your pencil, you'll get really off, and it's kind of fun. Like, it gets really goofy looking. But that's okay. That's kind of the exercise. The exercise is to try to train your eye to just look at what it sees and not what it thinks it should see. Because a lot of times, when you draw, what you see is not what your brain thinks you should be seeing. I don't know if I'm making any sense at all, but it's kind of true. And I'm realizing I'm probably going to want more than one piece of paper with this project, but that's okay. You don't have to draw a bunch of objects either. I'm choosing to draw a few so that you can see different kinds of things, and you can decide based on what I draw, what kind of object do you think you want to find when you go out to look for them. Okay, so that's kind of it. A little thing at the end there. And then I have some shadows. Maybe I'll add some shadows in here. So that's basically just this is what's called contour line. This is what I've just drawn for you. I didn't really look down at the paper very much. I pretty much stared at the leaf and then I drew it. Now, if I want to go back in and make it look a little more realistic, let me show you what I can do. There are ways to shade even when you don't have like crayons or markers. There's this way called hatching, which is basically just drawing lines back and forth. You could draw crisscross lines, you could draw straight lines. It's really up to you. The less you draw, so like let's pretend this part shaded a little bit. I might just draw lines, straight lines down like that. The more shaded an area is, the more hatching you can do. Do you see how I'm doing that? Can you guys see that well? I'm not sure. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. The more hatching you do, does that make sense? So the more lines you draw to show more, to show that it's more shaded, and then the less lines, the less shaded it is. You've probably seen this especially if you look at any comic books or any cartooning kind of stuff. They like to do they'll do hatching a lot because it's black and white, right? They don't have color to work with. And this is a big shadow that comes across here and comes down. So it's kind of a fun, hatching's kind of a fun technique to know about, and so that's why I wanted to show it to you. So this one's quite dark. So you're not actually coloring it in, but almost. So and you can sort of tinker with this and see how you like it. See if you think it's fun or not. Okay, so you got the basic idea here. Now I'm going to turn my paper over, I think. Yeah, I want to do the fern. The fern kind of looks cool to me, so I'm going to turn my paper this way. And I think I like the fern because it's all different ways. It's kind of fun how the leaves look on this to me. I'm going to get this drawn first. I can see most of that. All right. So I'm really trying hard to draw again what I see. What do I see? What do these fern leaves look like? They're kind of jagged a little bit, so I might want to show some of the jagged. There we go. And they all sort of are angled up this way. That must have been the way the sun was. Kind of growing toward the sun. And they're a variety of heights. Some of them go longer than others, so I want to show that too. And then what happens right around here is the ones on this side are flipped up. So let me draw these first so you can see what I'm talking about. And I bet if you go to either of those parks I was mentioning, or I'm sure there's a park, there might even be a different park near your house that I haven't mentioned, but you'll have lots of like plants you can look at and rocks and all sorts of fun stuff. Oops, don't go anywhere, leaf. It's trying to blow away on me. So now what starts to happen is these leaves are curled up. It's like you see the underneath of the leaf, which is kind of interesting. How does that work? Maybe I'll do a few more like this and then I'll do what I'm talking about. Okay, so now these are starting to go whoop like that. And you don't really see the back side of the other ones. You do a teeny weeny bit, but not very much. So I'll draw these and then I'll go and then they get skinnier and smaller as they go to the top. Okay, and these come this way. It's very good practice to have to look at something like this for a long time. And if you're in 5th grade and you're headed off to Sinaloa next year, you might get to do the art program, which is super fun. They have a great art program. And they'll be so impressed if you know about contour line. Okay, so then if I want to do some hatching, if I want to do some shading, I'm going to do some in here because this is where you could kind of, we're seeing like underneath the bottom of the leaves. So I want to add some of that in. I hope you guys can see that okay. And you could go both ways if you want. Hatching, kind of, there's a lot of variety around that. I'm sure you can find some if you want to learn more. It's just one of the many ways to shade. So the nice part about it is you don't need a bunch of tools to do hatching. You don't need like, you know, a blendy stick and different pencils or crayons or markers or whatever. It's just It literally is just your one writing implement. Okay. I would certainly want to add more to this. Like, there are also lines that go up each of these. So if I really were trying to do my best work here, I think I'd want to add some of those. Because that's... Okay, and then lastly, I've got my rock here. Leaving it in the sun so I can see a little bit of shadow. So let's see here. This is all in the sun, but there are some darker spots. So I could do something with my pencil showing the darker spots. And then there's some mulch around that part. And then it comes around this way. It goes up a little bit. Goes up this way, and then this comes down here. And this is all the shaded part. And then there's some like lichen or mulch attached to this part. So I'll put some of that on there. That's kind of fun. Something that you don't have on every rock. Okay, then this is very shaded. And then to show how shaded it is, I'll go the other way as well to make it even darker. And then if you want to really shade it, you can go the other way again. Like maybe this time I go straight down. I went it diagonally for the other two. Now I'm going to do straight down. You could always do a cross as well. Really shade it in because this is quite shaded. Okay, and then I'm gonna add, there's like this little crack, little spot right there I'm gonna put in. And then there's some like darker areas, which I might just sort of do a little shading there to show that it's not all the same. You could color it in. You don't have to always hatch. You could do some shading like that too. And then it comes up here a little bit. This is a little bit darker. Who knows why, whether it was like, you know, there's more water in that part of the rock or something. And then on the table down here, I have a shadow. So I'm gonna show that too, because that is being cast by the rock because of the sun, and that goes all the way around it until there. And with this, I might really color it in because it's not just a little shaded, it is completely black because it's the actual shadow, right? So there's no texture going on here like here, there's like some texture and there's some bumpiness, so the hatching makes sense. But here, I feel like I just want to color that all the way in because it's essentially just a black shadow. You'll notice I have some bumpiness. I think that my board under here is a little bumpy, so you might want to think about what you're leaning on. You could lean on like a hardcover book or something. I think one of my favorite parts of doing art outside in nature is you get to hear like the birds and stuff. I think that's nice. We live in such a nice place. We're so lucky. We can walk right out our door and see beautiful things. Not everybody can do that. It's a nice thing to have. So you see I'm trying to make that really dark so it's really clear that that's a shadow. Okay, there we go. All right, and you can tinker with this if you want to add some more color in here or whatever, you can do that. I'm trying to make this look lighter than this because this is just sort of some gray tones in the rock. Whereas these other parts are actual, like the shade, all shadowed like that. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope you can find some cool stuff out in nature to draw and have fun with. I can't wait to see what you come up with. Okay, friends, so this is my finished stuff, and I could keep adding to this. I could keep adding shading, I could keep adding lines, but there was my mint. I added a little bit of shading in here. I also went ahead and added some lines in the leaves because I realized later, if you look really closely, do you see all those little lines in the leaves? All those little tiny lines. I wanted to sort of show those. There's my fern. It was fun because it curled up at the end there, so I kind of wanted to show that. I don't know if you can see that, or not, but it kind of curls up as it goes down there. Do you see how it does that little curly thing? So I thought that was kind of fun to try to show, so that's why I tried to do it that way. If you were confused by that, that's why I did it that way. And here's my rock with my little lichen or my moss on the side, and I tried my hatching. I tried some just solid shading too, to show that shadow that was being cast by the sun. And then I added some other little shading to show where the rock was darker, but here I definitely did hatching. All right, and I did some hatching on these leaves as well. And over here as well. All right, so I just wanted to show you some techniques. I hope you have fun. I hope you find some fun objects in your backyard that you can draw, or at a park, or just taking a walk with your family. And if nothing else, just get out and do some drawing outside. It's kind of nice. It's kind of calm. It's really pretty weather right now for me. And I don't know, I hope you enjoy this. All right. Have a good day, guys.